Hey, everybody. Welcome to the True North 34 outboard 2020. You just saw a little video of me with a walkthrough on this boat. I'm going to drop the engines down, twin 300 horse Suzuki's, and start them up for you so you can hear them running, and then just maybe give you another quick little walkthrough on the boat. So hang out. I'm going to go forward, drop these engines down. Let's start them up. There you go. Got them both running. These 300 Suzuki's are really quiet. 300 horsepower is a pushing boat at 45 knots. They're really efficient engines. These are the choice engines for everybody. If you go on the East Coast, if you look at all the new outboards going out, everybody's running these 300 Suzuki. Really nice engines, really quiet. Fuel efficiency, you get about 1.4 miles per gallon per engine. So they're really fuel efficient. And speed engines, easy to maintain, and just check them out. So we're going to be giving away a free ride on this boat. So why don't you text us or chat with us, and we'll pick a winner for a free prize on these 34. So come on aboard. And I'll just give you a quick little walkthrough on the boat. You got a nice little cockpit back here. Right now, there's a wall that goes up here that we have down. It does swing up, so you can enclose the cockpit. All the woodwork is Catalina finished, just really beautiful. 20 coats of varnish on all this high gloss woodwork. Beautiful table with the inlaid compass rose. Nice settee for probably 6 people here. Nice little galley. And a sink with a faucet that hides out. And underneath is your single burner electric stove. Fridge, drawer fridge, 2 levels, easy access. Keep your drinks and food. Over on this side, we have a forward-facing seat with a little footstep. You can sit here and see forward with really good visibility. Or you can take the top cushion off and move the armrest back, and now you have more seating for the settee. All right, so we're going to wrap it up on the True North, and we're going to take you to a video of an interview with one of the engineers down at Catalina. So away we go.
One, two, three, four.
Hi, everybody. We're here at Largo, Florida at the Catalina Yachts factory, and I'm here with Julian Chapman, who is the head engineer. Hey, Julian, how you doing today?
Pretty good.
All right.
I would say I'm the design engineer.
Design engineer.
I call Jerry the director of engineering. So
Okay.
head engineers, I mean, I'll take it, but just full disclosure. Full disclosure.
Yeah. So tell us what you do at Catalina.
Well, like I said, I'm the design engineer, which means that I work directly for Jerry Douglas. I work primarily in Rhino 3D, a little AutoCAD, but basically I'm doing all 3D modeling, 2D drafting, rendering for to generate media. And so I'll do design of small stainless parts. I'll do hydrostatics using Rhino and Orca. So basically, any drafting, 3D rendering, engineering activity that happens here, it's under Jerry's direction, but I'm the one to do it in the computer, I guess.
So you guys are using all the latest technique and technologies, 3D and all that modeling stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a changing world and the technology changes very quickly. Rhino 3D is the marine, I'd call it the marine standard, because it's fairly inexpensive. It's accessible both in terms of how much it costs, but also in how easy it is to use. And then it also, it has a plugin that will do hydrostatics that is also not that expensive. So if you want to know, where the center of gravity is in your boat, center of buoyancy, what your, heel angles are going to be, things like that, your curve of stability, the program will do that. And that's kind of why it's chosen by the marine industry. But there's definitely other programs out there that'll do it, but they tend to be 10, 20 grand a year.
Wow.
And I know that there is another, that there is another level of software, but certainly we try to do as complete an engineering job as we can before we start tooling and producing a new boat.
So you were on board for some of the 545 design?
Yes, I came in maybe 3/4 the way through that boat. And so I wouldn't take credit for, that design at all, really. But certainly I came on board and there was a lot of stainless steel small parts to do. There was some engineering left, mainly in the chain plates and the shroud, how the shrouds connect into the hull, that type of thing. That was kind of the biggest engineering hurdle that I needed to make for that project.
And that's a big deal, designing that to make sure that the boat is really strong and stiff and you got all the right materials and loads are aligned. And
honestly, it was a great introduction to the company because, it could be that on day one when you're hired, maybe you're hired in a lull period where there's not much going on and you've got a couple months to settle in. For me, they hired me and we had a couple months to get the boat out for Annapolis. So it was full throttle and it was working weekends, pretty much every weekend until the boat left.
Wow.
So it was a lot, but it was also, I could tell in the moment, I said, you know what, I'm going to look back at this time and it'll be easy to remember when I came on board at Catalina. Right. You know what I mean? So many people have worked here for 20, 30, 40 years. Like even the janitor up until a couple months ago had been here for 30 years.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. Wow. And so I thought, gosh, if I'm here that long and people ask me, hey, yeah, when did you come on board? I'll always be able to say, oh yeah, right for that 545.
The 545,
You know.
and then you went right into the True North project.
Yeah, though to be honest, that we had purchased all the tooling from True North. All the drawings and engineering had already been done, which is something that I would have had to do if that had been a new design. So to be honest, my job on that boat was much easier. And actually, I didn't need to do all that much. You know, there's a few stainless parts, but for instance, the lamination was done. The structures are all done. The fiberglass tooling already exists. So as a company, that's a major project. But for me personally, it wasn't as much of a workload as that 545.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the whole thing here is probably predicated on converting Jerry's brain and ideas onto paper, so you can memorialize that, and also reproduce the parts exactly as they're designed for future builds.
Yeah. Well, so Jerry, obviously he's an amazing designer. He's been here forever. He's got a lot of designs under his belt. And he's got a really quick eye, and he's a great sketch artist. And so, the process between myself and him is he'll make a sketch of what he wants, and then I will translate that sketch into a 3D model and then into 2D drawings. And so I'm communicating with outside vendors, or generating material for the CNC to cut. But I'm really grateful actually that Jerry is, in my perspective, old school in that fashion. He doesn't do any design work on the computer, and the marine industry is so old. It's like, how long have been humans using boats? Computers are pretty new, and I think it's important to have someone who has a ton of experience on the water designing boats. And the great thing about the fact that he designs with paper is that it gives me space to be here. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm young. Right. I don't have decades and decades of experience, and so, but I can do 3D modeling, rendering, drafting, all that. So it's a great balance, I think, between me and him.
So you've got that process where you got Jerry's ideas that he sketches out, and then you take them and you put them into the 3D and then the 2D drawings.
Right.
And then what? What happens after that?
So yeah, there's a lot of bad magic that happens after that. I would say it depends. I mean, if it's for an outside vendor, I would be sending either the 3D. Actually, some vendors will take my model direct, and they've got machines that will, they've got a 3D pipe bender that'll just read a 3D shape of a pipe, and it'll just bend it to that shape. And I don't need to make a drawing at all. Other vendors require 2D drawings so that they can make a part. If it's for something here, that's where, having people like Mike, who's the plant manager, production manager, having people like Jamie, who really took charge of the True North project, where they've got decades and decades of experience. They know every guy out there on the plant. So in that respect, I've got a lot of respect for those guys, because I just make the drawing, but there is a lot of interpretation into how to get it done, and they offer me feedback about, oh, well, you designed something, and maybe it's great, but maybe it's really hard to actually produce. So there's some good communication there, but effectively, I pass it on to the next guy in line. Boat building, it's so cheesy to say, but it's really true. It's a team sport. And, sports really get all the credit for building teamwork, but, one person cannot build an entire boat. And if they do, it's like, oh, someone spent a decade in their beautiful barn in on the coast of Maine, and they built this like gorgeous wooden, canoe, or something, or like, or they rehabilitated, restored this 30-foot yacht or something. I mean, yes, it can, one person can do it, but not in a production environment. You're producing a production sailboat that requires an enormous team effort. And I'm just someone towards the beginning of that effort in engineering,
Yeah, and I think that for me, being here at the Catalina factory, that's one of the things that really sticks out is the teamwork of everybody working together. And you see these boats going down the line, being put together, and it's just really incredible. They do a great job, and they quality control the boats. And so when we get these boats out the end of the factory, they're really, really nice boats.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've developed there's institutional knowledge here. So they've developed internal practices where they have a standard cabinetry design where I don't even need to design a cabinet or, how to put together, some of the interior elements, because they already know, and they've done it forever, and they already know the best way to do it. So that makes my job easier. It also means that if we need to get a boat out the door really quickly, that's a new build, they're pulling expertise from things we do on other models, like for the 545, where you want someone to come on board and say, hey, this looks like a Catalina. Part of that is that sometimes we're using the same parts between models, but it's also the build process. Where do we put maple? Where do we put teak? How are the fiddles made? How is the cabinetry made? How are the settees and all those, especially the interior elements, like how are all those elements made? They've got that stuff down, and it's pretty impressive.
It is impressive. So part of your design work is probably materials. Do you spec materials or providers or vendors?
That's especially true with lamination. So
lamination.
Yeah, I mean, for the interior elements, Jerry or the sales, there's a collaboration between Jerry and the sales side of the equation, where they say, oh, what do we want in terms of wood, or what type of leather, or what colors, things like that, are not so much in my wheelhouse. But where the materials matter in terms of engineering, then that's my wheelhouse. So, and lamination's the largest factor, in terms of cost and weight. And, that's actually what I've been working on mostly during this True North project, is optimizing the lamination scheduling for the 545. It's pretty easy, frankly, to design something that if you go over the top with your factors of safety, if you just need something to work and you don't really want to engineer the hell out of it, just make it way stronger than it needs to be, right?
Right.
Where it starts to take more time and more effort and more thought is, hey, what if we really want to make this as light as it can be? And then you need to really get more specific. So, the short answer is lamination is where we spend a lot of time with that.
And that's why you guys are using the stitched cloth and.
For sure.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a real balance between cost and return on that cost, and value, I guess you could say. And the reason why we don't, for instance, vacuum bag infuse all of our hulls like some people do, is that adds a tremendous amount of cost, mostly because it adds a lot of labor. It's not so much that the material costs a lot more. You've got expendables there. but it adds a lot of time and labor. So, and you're saving, and what it's allowing you to do is save weight out of the lowest part of the boat, in the hull where it matters the least amount. So for us in our equation, it's like, hey, do we want to add a lot of expense to and save weight here, or do we want to basically save the cost there where the weight doesn't hurt us and maybe infuse the deck instead, or spend a little more on higher quality rigging components, taking weight out of the rig. I think about this a lot when in power boating, where you could double the amount of horsepower you have and gain like 3 knots of top speed.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
right.
And it's like, oh my gosh, you just spent like $100,000, and instead of going 35 knots, now you're going 38. Like, wow, the payback is not there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So in the sailing market, the market is so small and so competitive that we really are trying to hit that maximum value. And so when we're speccing materials, a lot of the times it's coming down to, is the customer really going to get more value if we dump a ton of money into X, Y, and Z? And we really got to get that equation correct. I think, if I can say this, I think where Catalina does the best, in my opinion, is the interior quality. To me, when I go onto a Catalina versus a European boat, I feel on a Catalina like I'm in a home, and it feels warm and it's inviting. And you get into a European boat and it's maybe a less expensive, and it feels like everything you're looking at has been CNC'd out of a standard stock piece of board. And it's clean looking, but it feels pretty cold and it feels pretty cheap. So, really, I can't, I'd let Jerry really have the final word on this, but in my opinion, I think we try to lower costs as much as we can, but where we don't try to save money is interior quality. And that way, when the customer comes on board, you can see it and feel it. And that's why people own the boat for 20 and 30 years. A boat isn't like a laptop or a phone. You're not supposed to, sure, you could be in a boat and flip it and get out of it 2 years later, but most of our customers have had the boats for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, we see that all the time on used boats. They keep them for a long time.
Right.
And then if they decide, hey, it's time to upgrade, they come back and they buy another Catalina.
Exactly. And I've not been with Catalina. I've only been with Catalina for about 7 months, so I'm not the expert, but that's just my initial opinion, that I think the interior quality is really special.
Yeah. So you mentioned you've been here for 7 months. How did you get here? Well, tell us a little backstory. Where'd you start?
Yeah. Well, I'm not that old, so my backstory isn't that long.
You're not old like me?
That's right. That's what I'm trying to say. But I started in the marine world pretty late. I grew up on the coast of Maine, actually about 15 minutes away from Wooden Boat, where Wooden Boat magazine comes from, and Brooklyn Boatyard.
Brooklyn Boatyard, yeah.
Yeah. So
quality boatyard, by the way.
Yeah, it's that part of the world. It's so funny when you go into Brooklyn, Maine, they have a little sign that says like boat building capital of the world, because there's more boat builders per capita than anywhere else.
Is that right?
But it's because the number of people there are like, there's like 15 people and 10 of them are boat builders. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of a humorous little joke. But it is a phenomenal boating spot, mid-coast Maine. There's a lot of builders up there. So I didn't really get involved in it directly for work growing up, but I think it was always a part of the culture, and where it was an area where people vacationed there to be on a boat in mid-coast Maine, like Mount Desert Island, Bar Harbor, Castine, Booth Bay, all those places that
Just classic.
Oh, classic. Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of boating up there. So anyhow, I found it late, in my mid 20s. I had been traveling in South America, spent all my money down there, came back to the country, and was looking for a job. And my best friend worked at his uncle's boatyard on Cape Cod. And so I moved in with him and started working in a marina.
So you're a boat boy.
I was a boat boy. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky in the respect that I got a chance to do everything at that marina. It was a small, and actually they built boats there too. It wasn't just a marina, but it was a boatyard as well. So they built 14-foot, 16-foot cat boats for the most part. And they do a few custom wooden boats every year, every other year, up to about 24 feet. But by and large, they're making 14-foot, 16-foot cat boats. So when I started there, I started probably like anybody who starts in a marina. You know, I was compound wax, bottom paint. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that too long. And I got moved to the waterfront, became the waterman. So I was rigging, down rigging, launching, hauling, mooring repair, tossing moorings, delivering boats out on the water, varnish, topside paint. I really got to run around the whole place and dip my toes into every little bit of it. And I loved it. Cape Cod is a beautiful, beautiful place in the summer.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I was lucky in that from April through December, I was on the water.
That's great.
I mean, in some bad weather too, but on the nice days, I was out there as well. And that was a fantastic entry into the boating world. From there, I decided to go to the landing school for yacht design.
The landing school's up in Maine.
That's up in Maine, yeah, Arundel, Maine, near Kennebunk.
Yeah.
And Kennebunkport.
Yeah.
So, and that was also a fantastic experience for me. It was a really difficult program, and I think on average it's about 25 to 30% dropout rate.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really tough year. But I think why I got through it is I felt like I was in the right place, and the group of students that I was in, I made friends that I'll have for the rest of, forever. Yeah. I mean, I just felt, oh, this is where I belong. So I did that year. And then afterwards I took a job in Miami. That's what brought me down to Florida.
In the marine industry?
Yes, in the marine industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing basically what I do here, modeling, a little bit of rendering, but mostly modeling and 2D drafting, stuff like that.
Yeah.
When the job opened up at Catalina, I'm a sailboat person first. Like I was saying, on Cape Cod, that was my first major work experience in the marine world. And we built sailboats, They built one powerboat while I was there, but that's not really what they were about. So I had always wanted to do sailboats and design sailboats, I should say. And the difficulty with that is that the sailboat market is so small compared to the powerboat market.
Sure.
So that, Catalina is really the last production sailboat company in America.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Which is, and when I was in my interview here, I think I asked, I don't know if there is another production sailboat company, really, is there? And Jerry was like, yeah, no, we're pretty much the last.
Yeah.
So as someone who wanted to design sailboats, this is where I needed to be, right?
Yeah, you were lucky to get this job, huh?
Well, exactly. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
And on top of that, that's not the only reason why I'm lucky. I mean, you've also interviewed a bunch of other people here, and they've all been here forever and ever.
Yeah, 20, 30 years, 15 years.
Yeah, like I said, even the janitor, so it was like, I wanted to be in a place where I was surrounding myself with people who knew a lot more than I did. Because otherwise, I just don't think I'd learn as much. You know,
Yeah.
I may be the only person that's doing the digital computer design, engineering, and CAD and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean I don't have, you know, other things to learn. I've got a ton to learn, and so yeah. Short story is I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Um, let's talk a little about what we're doing. What Farallon Yachts, the Catalina dealer out in San Francisco, what we're doing sitting here at the table with you, interviewing you for these video interviews and podcasts. So what do you think about that?
I was super excited when you guys came down. This is the type of thing that doesn't seem to exist yet in our industry. And it's fantastic. It's fantastic for, you know, your dealership, but it's fantastic for us. We're all on the same team in that respect. And I think we're on the same team in general in terms of what we want for the marine industry. And I think, you know, the industry's got a lot of potential and a lot to grow, to come into its to fruition, really. So I think it's great.
Yeah, so using the internet to get to those people that are on the internet, but maybe they don't know about Catalina, maybe they don't know about sailing, getting out on the water, using those boats, having fun, and we're trying to get that message out and working with Catalina on that. And of course, you guys are going to be getting all of this content, and we'll put it out, and you guys will put it out. And you know, it's really important for us to get new people involved in this sport. And there's no reason that we can't. I mean, sailing is something when you learn, you can learn and start at any age. You can, from a very young child all the way up to somebody that's retired and, you know, thinking about the next thing to do. The younger generation that, you know, is really into doing really cool things, you know, kite surfing and windsurfing, or you know, whatever, you know, mountain bike riding, or you know, all these cool
wingsuit jumping,
or snowboarding, or right. And you know, you should be thinking about sailing. And sailing is just a super great sport. Not only can you start at any time, but it doesn't matter what age you are or what experience you are. You could have 10 people on the boat, and every one of those people may have different experiences. Somebody may have been sailed around the world, and he's on board with somebody that has never been out on the water, and you can enjoy it. And that's one of the great things with sailing. And what we're trying to do is get that message out. So I don't know what you guys think out there that are listening to this, but we'd love to hear what you think and what you like to hear. And, you know, let us know, and we'll try to help you guys and give you information. You know, interviews with Julian. We've been interviewing the management team here. It's just a great opportunity for us and for you as well to really see the inside works of sailing and how boat building works.